Hey everybody, it's Voodoo Let back again. I've been sitting here for probably about the past 15 minutes thinking of whether or not I should actually go through with this. The reason why I'm making this video is because there's been a group I was in, I'm not going to mention it, but it's a debate group. One of the topics is if your 15-year-old daughter was with a 21-year-old man, what would you do? Or, somewhere around there. There was a decent age gap, a teenager versus an adult. And a lot of the parents on there were saying that they'd call the police. They'd send that man to jail. And, I sat there and I tried to say, well, what's the point? Now, I can understand if it was like a 12-year-old kid and like a 40-some-odd-year-old man. Okay, but somebody with such a close age gap with a teenager, it's really, you are hurting your daughter more than you will ever know. And I know this for a fact because I guess I'm gonna make my confession here. People have heard sides of the story. People have heard parts of it. The only one who's ever really heard it was my fiance, and even he didn't hear it all that much because it seemed like it made him angry, so I stopped. I've kept this hidden since I was 15. I'm 31 now. It's a lot of years. When I was 15 years old, I'm sure none of you are surprised. I'm not the greatest looker in the world or anything like that. I'm kind of fat and all that. Been like that my whole life. So, in middle school and high school, I was the outcast. In fact, I was the outcast in grade school. Nobody wanted me. Nobody wanted to be around me. I didn't have really any friends. And I was kind of the weirdo, and I was awkward. I'm not gonna lie. And then one day, I met somebody. And he wasn't, it started out extremely innocent. And basically what it was my older cousin's boyfriend. And you have to understand that my family and I were very close. Very close. I loved going over to my aunt's house, my uncle's house, and hanging out with my cousin. We used to do all kinds of things together. I still remember a lot of the games we played. As when I was a kid, they were older than me, but it was always a blast. And so I met this guy, and at first, I didn't have, ever. I didn't really have a crush on him per se, or anything like that. I never ever tried to overstep my bounds, but there was like a difference. When you're 15, you don't catch on to guys' games as easily as I would now. Like, for example, there's some guy up at work right now who's really, really trying, and I'm like, boy, I've been around the block, I've played those games, I know those games. So go away and be gone. But when you're 15, you don't know those things. And so basically what had happened was we started, hanging around and everything, and I had seen him as a real friend. Somebody I could actually talk to who wanted to hang out with me. And then, of course, my parents started going through the divorce, and it was a hard time. And so I just really needed somebody. And when my parents went through the divorce, I ended up moving out because me and my mom had a huge scuffle, and my dad didn't really have a place to stay. So I moved out, and I moved in with my cousin and him. And everything was basically normal. There was really no flirtation or anything until one night, and it's been so long I can't even remember what I was doing over there, but we had all all gone to hang out. And like I said, I'm a 15-year-old. I'm trying to stick up with or hang out with the adult crowd and do the right thing and this, that, this, and the other. You know, I even remember that night trying to get somebody's number and I lost my pager because I didn't have a phone, you know. Back then we didn't have, not everybody had a cell phone. We had pagers. Anyway, so we get there and then my cousin leaves. And I don't remember a lot of the night. I just remember a few key details. What I do remember is us giving up on the fact that we thought my cousin was going to come home. She never did show up. So we started drinking. And it was me, him, and at that time, a friend of mine who was 1 year younger than me. And he was like 20, 21, 22, something like that. We started drinking gin. I remember that. And we were listening to Tupac. And I think some Bone Thugs and watching South Park. And I didn't really want to drink half the time because I didn't like it. I mean, I'm not a big drinker now. But we didn't really want to drink, or I didn't really want to drink, but I didn't want to be a loser in front of him. So every time he handed me a drink, I'd take it. There were times I'd make my own drink and I'd put more orange juice in it than I would gin. And he would actually take it from me, take a sip and say, oh no, there's not enough alcohol in there. And so he'd fill it up some more. And that kept on going and going and going and going throughout the night. The last thing I actually remember about that night was me laying on the couch because I couldn't get up the stairs because my room was up the stairs. I was trashed. Everything was blurry, and the very last thing I remember was him on top of me. That was it. But being the dumb teenager I was, I always had this thing. You know, even the next day when I woke up, I couldn't really believe it happened. I thought it was a dream. I just know I was a little sore because I was a virgin. You know, so didn't really know what happened. After that, I ended up going back home to my mother's house. He didn't really say too much about it. I mean, he made mention of it and everything, but I kept remembering my cousin, and I was freaking out because I couldn't believe I'd done something like that. And, well, dummy me, like I said, I've always had this thing where I wanted to keep a diary, and I was going to put it in a time capsule, and, you know, maybe somebody would dig it up and remember me. So I wrote things down in my diary. Now, I've always been told that losing your virginity was supposed to be something special. And so I added a few things to it that I don't even remember really what happened. You know, I mean, I was like writing this fantasy because if I wanted to put that diary in a time capsule, I wanted it to be right. I wanted it to be perfect. Well, then my mother went snooping around and she found it, her and this guy she was talking to. She brought it out and she lost it. And then all of a sudden it went to the police, it went to this, it went to that, you know, everybody found out, and suddenly I was the biggest whore ever. That single moment when my mother went to the authorities, when she threw that much of a fit, even though she thought it was justification for her, she ruined my life. To this day, I'm 31 years old and it still affects me. I still cannot go over there. I can't go visit my cousins without feeling this big. I can't go over there and feel normal. One little cousin that I have that I used to change his diapers and everything won't even accept my request on Facebook. It broke the family up. And the fucked up thing is from what I can remember and what I know of as now being an adult, my entire life I blamed myself. And I hated myself for it. But now, being a grown-up, looking back, learning, knowing those games, and knowing exactly what had happened, remembering the overpouring of drinks, remembering that I don't even remember what happened, and I know for a fact up to that point I didn't even ask for it. You know, basically that was a date rape scenario, but yet he still lives. You know, and I don't even like to toss that out, you know, because I know guys get drunk and shit happens, you know, so I don't like to toss that word date rape out. I don't like to do it because I think, you know, two consenting people, blah 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 blah. You know, but he was nowhere near as trashed as I was. It was like feeding me the drinks, he knew exactly what he was doing, but yet he was living with them. They accepted him after all that had happened, and I became the outcast. I became this horrible, horrible person that nobody really wanted to associate with, and that I feel like I can't associate with my own family, even though they were like my most favorite people in the entire world. I had such great memories with them. And so the point of this video is for you parents out there who insist on having to go and tell the police and go and do this. You have to realize you're ruining your daughter's life, because she's not going to forgive herself. She's going to think that she's the one who ruined that man's life, that she's the one who ruined other people's lives, and she's going to live with it for the rest of her life. Do something else. Ground her. Talk to her. Just don't bring it out to life. You don't understand the embarrassment I felt. My dad, still to this day, blames me because at one point in time when I was called in for court, I had this massive anxiety attack. And I just wanted to leave. My mom had moved to Texas and my dad was still in Michigan, and I was living in Michigan. And I left. I called my mom. I said, I have to go. I have to get out of here. And I fled the state. I mean, they didn't need me there, but they told me they didn't need me to actually show up, but I could not be there anymore. And so I moved to Texas, and my dad, after that, blamed me because he thought me leaving was the reason why he didn't get custody of my siblings. And so to this day, I'm still dealing with that bullshit too. It's fucked up, Dad, if you're watching this shit. It's fucked up. I didn't do that shit. If you weren't so, you know, that's for a whole nother time, because I don't even know if he's gonna see this video, because I'm not gonna tag it. I'm not gonna put it on, you know, my Facebook. I'm not gonna do anything like that. It's for whoever happens to find this video. All I know is don't do this to your daughter. So she fucked up, okay? Maybe even threaten the guy. Who knows, you know? Do whatever. Be an actual parent. Don't run out there and say, okay, well, you did this, so I'm going to get you back. But you don't realize the consequences that, you know, they're going to have to deal with for the rest of their life. Like I said, I'm 31 years old and I still think about this. It'd take me a long time to even get the... taken a long time to even get the strength to make this video. And I don't even know if I could post it because it's like 15 minutes long. But do something, do anything. But you may think you're doing what's best for your daughter, but you're not. She's going to remember it for the rest of her life. And whether it's a situation like mine, whether it's she was way too drunk to even recall or even make a good decision, or if she made the decision on her own, that guilt is still going to be there. That guilt is going to eat her alive. And as old as she gets, even though I'm sitting here saying that I know, being an adult now, knowing what alcohol does, knowing what had gone on and up to what I can remember, knowing that I blacked out and can only remember that one part. Even I still blame myself. I blame myself for ruining his life. I blame myself for fucking over my family, for doing this and doing that. And like I said, in the long run, all I really wanted was a friend. I never ever wanted it to go that far, ever. Because I've been sober, been able to think for myself, it would have never happened. So just remember this. Don't do it. There are other ways. You can discipline your child. You can come up with something. Yeah, okay, I understand why you want to stop it, because teenagers are stupid. And those men who want to date younger girls, they know they're stupid, and that's why. It's because they'll basically believe anything they're told. But there's another way. There's got to be another way. Don't put your daughter through that. That's all I got to say.